what's up? I'm going out on a limb here. My focus has been mostly on Canelo, especially his past performances. We've all seen Canelo slip. We see that Canelo's more stationary. He has learned how to do things like deliver his left hook pretty fast and blinding, catch his opponents off guard. Another aspect that, I saw Bivol talk about this, and I also saw Benavidez talk about this as well. But both guys have said what I've been saying, especially given the trends of Canelo's past few fights, guys like Ryder, guys like Jermell Charlo, who was a scared little chicken in that fight, was intimidated from the beginning. But guys like Berlanga, again, guys like Munguia, guys that we're seeing getting blown out, by other fighters who have more in their gas tank and things like that. Even if he does get knocked down or hurt in this fight, just like a meme machine scenario, I've always tried to, at least early on, tell you guys about Bud Crawford's competitive edge, which he clearly has over Canelo. It's not just that he has more tools, more skills, higher boxing IQ. The speed, at worst, probably first half of the fight with this weight, I'm predicting that at worst, he's still going to be just as fast, if not a little bit more faster than Canelo. He's better at picking his shots, seizing openings, placing his shots, punching in between sequences. And this is another reason why Canelo fights like he does. It's like punch out. He puts his attack into one punch, one or two punches. You understand? Because again, you put your punches together on him, he's not going to really exchange with you. You know what I'm saying? He wants a controlled scenario where you're sitting there, you're throwing pity-pat punches and things like that, punches you're not really sure about, punches that you're just trying to get Canelo to get off of you, and then he wants to counter you during those types of scenarios. When Bud Crawford does throw his punches, he's going to need to throw with authority, and he's going to need to punch through Canelo Alvarez. Prior videos, I told you some of the body shots he was landing on Porter where he actually stabbed through Porter on some of those, and they caught Porter really off guard. Again, same with his jab. He's going to need to sit on it more, but the jab's going to be there. You know what I'm saying? The jab is going to be there, just like it was for Larry Mosley, just like it was for Laura, just like it's been for so many fighters. Even with his high guard, you can still time him, punch him through his guard, especially when he does his bursts. You understand? Crawford, he should take advantage of the first 6 rounds to get Canelo to expend himself. But I already know the game plan they're going to go with. When Crawford does put his punches together, things like that, he needs to always end his combinations to the body, especially early on in this fight. And I believe that's precisely what they're going to do. It doesn't matter if he's in southpaw or in orthodox positions, starting off. He may get clipped. He may get hurt. Again, I'm not even worried about that scenario. Canelo showing that he can't finish fighters off. One of the videos I did, we showed you, one of the film studies, I believe, showed you the Munguia fight, and we showed you the round after Munguia got knocked down. Again, it's the same with Ryder. It's the same with really everybody else. And it's been going on for a long time, and I don't think it's going to be any different in this fight. Canelo has always had a terrible gas tank, but this is why it's important for Crawford to get Canelo to expend himself early. And this is pretty much the clincher and the dagger, in my opinion, that's really going to kill Canelo in this fight. We haven't talked about Crawford's half steps and his pendulum steps. And I was watching the Sean Porter fight again because I just watch film all day. That's all I pretty much do, when I go through these fights and I try to pick up on the tendencies and patterns. But I done forgot about the the half steps and the pendulum steps. If Crawford gets to the point where he can start to read Canelo's bursts, again, you're going to get to a point, and as the fight goes on, as we saw in Bivol and the fights that I just mentioned, those punches, they get a lot slower. His trick is to kind of low you and catch you off guard, when he's most optimum with his energy and everything else. But he does slow down throughout the fight. I'm sorry, he does. And the power in those shots is not the best either. Plus, with fatigue, it screws with your mind. And again, in a fight like Bivol, Canelo got to the point where he couldn't really adjust his shots. You know, that knockdown that he got off of Charlo, where he was able to fine tune it, you know, mid throw to land in between the guard of Charlo, and he went down. You know, later on in the fight, he's not able to do those types of things because he's fatigued, he's tired. You understand? His gas tank has always been a problem. So what he can do at best is pretty much like a broken record, throw the same sequence over and over again. He can't be creative anymore, things like that. You know what I'm saying? But again, stage one, Crawford, when you're dealing with Canelo trying to intimidate you with his high guard, walk you down, don't get all frazzled, don't get all crazy. Actually punch through it. You understand Canelo will back up. You got to be effective too, and then your clean punches, which I obviously think Crawford is going to do. When you do throw your combinations, he's rarely going to try to counter you during an exchange. You understand? He also has to do things like set his feet and things like that as well. But you need to end your combinations just like you're doing against Madrimov, to the body, just like you're doing to guys like Avanesian. Ending your combinations, shots to the body, stab, jab again. You got to punch through Canelo. You got to make it count yourself. You know what I'm saying? Canelo, again, even when he has to defend himself, he's reactive, things like that. You know, he can anticipate the head movement and stuff like that, you know. He can look cool during some defensive sequences, but again, it still tires him out. So even during defense and even when he's not really expending himself, he still gets tired. If you can get to the point like a Bivol who managed to get Canelo on the ropes around round 4, you know, GGG did the same thing in the first fight. And you can sit there, toy with him, you know. He doesn't seem too aggressive to really get off the ropes. He actually likes being on the ropes. But again, your combinations early on this fight should always end to the body. It's going to pay dividends for you as the fight goes on. Stage 2, this will be where Canelo will probably, and his team will tell him that he needs to catch up and do more. But Canelo, being the type of guy that he is, he's going to want to rest, and he's want to, of course, be economical as he does it. You know what I'm saying? You can rest while still being effective against Canelo. And again, if it's a scenario where you can get him to the ropes, you can still rest while being offensive. There are no sequences. But Canelo's going to need to recover. You know, it's just the way he's built, and it's just the way he's always been in his career. You know, again, he likes low output rounds. He doesn't throw too many punches. He's a counter puncher. As we said before, he likes to pressure you, intimidate you, you know, and when it's time to turn on in the round, he'll do so in a few bursts or whatever else. The counter punch and everything else is going to play a factor as well. Again, it's going to get to the point where he can start reading Canelo's bursts, and he's going to be able to start countering. I told you guys before, when Canelo gets into those sequences of jab, 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 haymaker, whatever else, Bud is going to challenge him. But this is what I was getting to. You understand? It comes down to the half steps and the pendulum steps. And it's very important to establish this actually early on in the fight, I believe. You know, you want Canelo to really, again, blow his load during the first half of this fight. And the second half will be very easy for you. But the half steps and the pendulum steps, especially against guys like Sean Porter, Felix Diaz, they became very effective. And if he can get Canelo, and you're going to have to be close for Canelo to trigger him to burst, you know, it's not just timing him before he opens up, like with his left hook, haymakers. And, you know, we've talked about this. He's wide open. You understand? Even during jab, 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 haymaker, you know what I'm saying? You sneak lead uppercuts and crap like that, even from southpaw position and those types of sequences. But the Sean Porter fight, again, if he can manage to do those type of pendulum steps, those bait and traps right there, Canelo from time to time throws these winging haymaker shots, as we all know. You know what I'm saying? It's even to the point sometimes he'll pretty much almost leave his feet. His chin's wide open. If Crawford is not affected by the weight, because that is the only factor we got to see, and we'll only see that in the fight. But if he still has his footwork, if he still has his normal range of motion, things like that, he can easily avoid Canelo's haymakers, as we've seen so many people do before. Do a pendulum step, And when Canelo's in those type of scenarios where he's wide open and defenseless, Crawford does have the ability to land something devastating on Canelo Alvarez again. And I truly believe like the first 6 it's going to be a pretty close tactical chess game fight. But again, the back 6, the end game, if you guys watch chess, if you know Magnus and all those players, I watch those guys all the time. Magnus is the best because he's the best at the end game. You know, he's taken some L's here and there, but his emphasis has always been on end game. And the way chess players play, they don't necessarily care about keeping their pieces on the board. They trade material all the time, things like that. But Crawford, definitely, given the situation with judges and things like that, you should be like a chess player. You'll see the greats, they never care about losing material, you know what I'm saying? And their focus is always mostly on the end game. And this is the whole point. Your focus has to be on end game the whole time. You can't leave this up to the judges scoring. It's going to be stupid. Trust me. We already all know this. But especially later on in the fight when Canelo is more tired, those lefts are dropping low, things like that. There's a plethora of ways how you can skin this Canelo cat. You know, even from southpaw or conventional. I think it'd be easier from conventional. But again, he showed us time and time again, even with sequences against Avanesian, where you can shoot the straight left, and then this can either lead Canelo into a lead right uppercut, you know, which he'll be open for, or even like a right hook type punch that, you know, had Avanesian just knocked out, you know what I'm saying? But these scenarios are going to be there. And I'm now changing my prediction, you know. I still feel if you're betting, put it on the Crawford just for the win. You understand? Not decision or knockout. But I'm starting to lean more towards stoppage. I think Canelo, he has too many sequences, you know, where he's against the ropes. Crawford has shown that he is very good and accurate with putting his punches together. You understand? And juggling his opponents against the ropes. I see that being a scenario that does play out in this round, especially in the later rounds, especially if Crawford can land a counterpunch that sends Canelo back or whatever else. And then Bud starts landing some sequence of clean, effective punching without Canelo answering back. You understand? Bud Crawford is a boa constrictor, guys. So even if he manages to do that once in a round, especially in the later half of the rounds, he lets Canelo off the ropes. He's going to set him up with the same type of scenario again. Canelo's going to go back to the ropes, and again, he's going to get juggled again. GGG could not juggle. Nobody Canelo's ever faced can juggle like a Terrence Bud Crawford. Now, we know guys like Floyd probably could if they truly wanted to. Bivol was highly successful, you know, putting his punches together as well. But I'm trying to tell you, when it comes to linking 6, 7, 8, 9 punches together and still landing around 6 or 7 of those 9, you know, Crawford has shown a propensity to really be probably a top guy in the sport that can do that. I'm starting to see the stoppage, guys. I am. Your dude's going to tire out. He's not going to fight like a Mexican, and this is what's going to hurt him in this fight. If he came out again, if he just tried to blow Crawford out of the water, I would think that would be his best chance. I really do. But he's not a guy who pressures you with punches. He's a guy who pressures you with poker face and things like that. He tries to look cool. He tries to look like he's a finesse guy. You know what I'm saying? It's all about appearances with Canelo. But I do see around 11th round stoppage. Possibly Canelo on the ropes, or it could be a scenario where they don't let Canelo back out. I do see stoppage in this fight. I am changing my prediction. I think this is another cherry pick that's gone wrong. I think they underestimated Bud's ability. They put their confidence and everything in the resume and everything else of Terrence Bud Crawford. But again, you guys didn't have these types of problems with Berlangas. You didn't have these type of problems with, Colin Smith and all these other dudes that you fought. They did not have resumes. You understand? Even GGG himself, who has a terrible resume. Again, this is another thing I was watching too. I was watching the GGG fight 3. You understand? Canelo did tire out in the championship rounds. Now, GGG was never known as a guy who has lateral movement, back foot, things like that. And again, he's not really athletic as well. He just has good boxing acumen. He was a good Olympian and things like that. So he does have a knowledge of a lot of different styles and a lot of different tactics. Just like all those Eastern European fighters, they're very well-educated fighters. You understand? But there were moments, a lot of moments, you know, where Canelo was trying to burst, especially after getting hit. Golovkin's, this guy looks like a senior citizen in the ring. And he's taking, you know, steps back, things like that. If he had the athleticism of like a Terrence Bud Crawford who could execute pendulum steps and things like that, I think, again, due to fatigue and things like that, Canelo definitely burned out, guys, in that fight. Fights 2 and 3, I think GGG had the better case for the championship rounds. And this is Bud Crawford. Again, everything that we just explained in this prediction, I am predicting around 11th round stoppage. You understand? KO, you know, it's going to be accumulation of punches. Crawford's punches are going to have an effect on Canelo Alvarez. You know, I don't think he has bone-crushing power, but the thing with Crawford, again, is it's his technique. He knows how to torque and maximize delivery of a shot. And the most important part of all is he knows how to land in between shots and when opponents don't expect it. You know, I don't think he's going to flatline Canelo, but when he does land some big shots, it's going to lead to some very highly successful sequences. And Canelo, fatigue, everything else, and just being at this point in his career, I do see high probability for stoppage. I'm thinking about 65 to 70% confident in that. You know what I'm saying? Canelo, again, as the fight goes on, Bud is just going to constrict on him harder. It's the mind, battle of the minds. The mental is the most important thing in boxing, and Crawford is still a high-level chess player, even in the late rounds. You understand? Canelo, again, it's been more of a Gervonta Tate Davis, Deontay Wilder type approach. You can give up a bunch of rounds and try to land a sneaky shot out of nowhere, you know, and then try to finish the job if you need to, like a Caleb Plant or whoever else. That Billy Joe Saunders fight, again, it's a guy who does drugs and things like that. He's not a bad fighter at all, guys, but I mean, come on, he's no Bud Crawford. And again, what's on his resume? You tell me that. But regardless of all that, I am sitting down on around 11th round stoppage, TKO type victory in this fight. You know, I don't think Canelo's going to be able to sustain high-level chess, although he tries to appear to be a chess player. It's very basic chess player, you know what I'm saying? Again, and it's against guys who really are not as skilled as Bud, don't have as many tools as Bud, don't know how to set up as many traps as Bud. Again, Canelo's going to pay in those types of moments. You know, you haven't fought that in a while, fighting a guy who knows how to counter you and make you pay. But it does, unfortunately, have that ability. You understand, that's without question. It's going to be certain aspects of that. You're little, let me pressure you and try to counter you. You know, you're just, you know, skill-wise, everything else, you're a mismatch. The size is the only question. But I see Bud's hard work, and I see that they've been very secretive with Canelo's camp. And again, I'm just not convinced with these things that he's been doing. I'm not convinced with his attitude. You know, as I said before, it's the end of the era, but I see about a 65 or 70% of stoppage, and I'm predicting the stoppage to occur around round 11. We'll see how accurate I am, but I will talk to you guys later. Bye.